all households are going to do what they can to feed their families and to get by. And if you have no better option, you're going to do what you can, whether it's subsistence farming or it's having a small informal business. So I think when you look out at the landscape of sustainability challenges, you could also see a world of business challenges, right? So whether it's decarbonizing in industry like green steel, or in power with renewables, or it's reducing plastics in your products or your supply chains, or just preserving biodiversity, each of those has behind it a question of technology. So that's how you become more competitive for meeting those challenges. At the same time, there's also needs to be more willingness to pay for those things. And that might come from government interventions. It could come from customers switching preferences, toward wanting green products and that sort of thing. But in the long run, if there's enough innovation, those become the competitive solutions. And I think taking that long-term view and thinking about where can business make a difference, it's precisely in bringing costs down and through innovation. Yeah, I think it's again about figuring out how to become a more complex economy while you still do the basics well. So there's infrastructure investment that needs to be made, right, in order to grow. But there's also opportunities to take technologies that, again, are widely available and deliver products and services more cheaply. So whether that's through e-commerce or digital platforms for companies, and thinking about financial services, then payments that have become much cheaper, much easier to do commerce with. All of those are areas where R&D is really just about how do we take the technology that's there and deploy it in a way that's going to really move us forward and keep up with that productivity growth. And then there's a part of the economy that really is, the more basic R&D, science and technology frontier. And that's taking place in areas where there's universities that have partnerships with business and with the government to think about what are the real areas that tomorrow we could be at the frontier of productivity in. So I think there are things in terms of innovation that can happen at all of those different levels, and we shouldn't just think about it as an all or nothing question. Yeah. So within each of those sectors, which have been around forever, right, and they're core to our economic growth today, there's actually small parts of each of those sectors that tend to transform the rest. So we actually did research looking backwards to 2005, and we said, which are the small arenas that have outsized growth and dynamism, meaning the companies there are making big investments, the sector is growing. And what we actually see is that within banking, the payments sector grew really fast. Within the broader sector of pharmaceuticals, biopharmaceuticals grew really fast. In energy, the renewables technologies really caught up and they're starting to take over. In auto, EVs, really jump forward. And what we see is looking forward, that also will probably be the case where, for example, digital advertisements, is taking a huge amount of growth precisely because the attention economy is growing really fast and how we spend time is really shifting. So in each of those traditional sectors, there's usually a part, what we call an arena of competition, because there's so much action happening in that one space that can really drive the transformation of the economy more broadly. Why is there informality? So all households are going to do what they can to feed their families and to get by. And if you have no better option, you're going to do what you can, whether it's subsistence farming or it's having a small informal business. And they're critical for that reason. You can't just say that informality is bad. They're actually good. It's their business. But people will move if they have better opportunities. And so the real sort of long-term solution, is for companies to, increase their availability of good jobs, right? And how does that happen? Well, it's the investment, it's the opportunity to skill people and to draw on a more skilled workforce, so that actually the demand for skilled workers in formal jobs goes up. And the countries that have seen that go down, it's mostly just because of the breakthroughs in productivity and skills that you see in the formal economy, rather than trying to reduce the informal economy. There are some things that are also important about making that transition easy, not making the tax burden or compliance burden when you become a formal business too difficult, so that transition can be made. But most of the change actually happens when people just join larger companies, and it's not necessarily about crossing that boundary. So the key in the long term is to increase investment and grow the formal economy. So businesses know what they need in terms of skills. So they have a critical play to what is really a societal problem. And the demand for certain skills is changing very quickly, in the workforce. And whether it's in a high-income country like the United States or other countries, oftentimes you see higher unemployment even in the more skilled areas where it's just a mismatch of meeting what the companies need. So there is definitely a role for the private sector there, and reskilling the workers you need is one part of the answer. But it can't be the whole part, and in part because you can train a workforce and they can leave, and everybody has to have their incentives aligned. So I think collaborations are really important here. Thinking holistically about what is the education system doing, what kind of jobs for the future are you creating, what are the ways in which workers can find good jobs so that they know what skills that the companies are looking for, and then of course the companies themselves having a role to play in building the skills of their workforce. We actually see in our research that more than half the skills that workers accumulate is gained through their experience on the job. So we should be thinking about work as a place of learning, and companies should make sure that that's how they think about their workforce, because over time, that's what's going to grow their companies.